Hello everybody, welcome to Bitcoin Not Crypto. You can find me on Twitter X at ForestHodl. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the strategic Bitcoin reserves for individual states. Is this a big deal? How much Bitcoin will they actually buy? And are any of these proposed bills actually going to get passed? These are all the different things I'm going to explore in this video. Before I do that, however, I'm going to tell you about where I buy my Bitcoin, which is at Bitcoin Well. They have no fees and the smallest spread in the US and Canada for a non-custodial exchange. And they also have non-KYC options available. If you use my link in the description or my code Bitcoinnotcrypto, you'll get yourself some free Bitcoin. And if you're the first person with a Lightning wallet to scan this QR code, you'll get some free Bitcoin as well. So right here, this is a website. The link will be in the description. It's bitcoinreservemonitor.com. The person that created this actually reached out to me, and I suggested that they put how much Bitcoin each place could potentially buy. And what they did is they added in the rainy day fund total amount. It isn't fully entirely accurate as far as what I could see, because a lot of these proposals are only for a small percentage of different types of funds they have. It might be the rainy day fund, it might be other ones. I took a look specifically at Wyoming, and we'll go over some of the information that I found specifically about that. But the reason I bring this website up is if you click on the state that you're in question about, they have any updated information about the proposed bills. They also have latest updates here on the side and federal status. So all of these blue ones are proposed. None of these have been approved or denied yet. And this is just a great website to keep track of this if this is something important to you. So what is a rainy day fund? Well, a rainy day fund is it's basically a savings account for the state government. And they can dip into that if there's any sort of economic downturns, they need to respond to an emergency, they have revenue volatility that they need to deal with, or to avoid any sort of debt. And this is typically where they'll be accessing the capital or allocating a certain percentage of this fund or other funds to Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. That's what a lot of these bills are kind of wording Bitcoin and the reason for buying Bitcoin as. And a lot of these bills are very close to each other in their wording, and that's because they're introduced with people working from the Satoshi Action Fund is who's actively putting these bills out and getting senators to sign off of them, and different politicians to front run, or not to front run, but to implement these bills into the places where they need to be signed, Senate or whatever. So if we bring up the Wyoming bill here, we can see all of this information. This is all sort of the the legal way to introduce a bill here. And you can see right here, the general fund provided that no more than 3% of the general fund shall be invested in Bitcoin at one time. So they have a max allocation of 3%. And this rainy day fund here shows 15,000 Bitcoin being able to be purchased by Wyoming, but that doesn't account for the actually only 3% of that being allocated. What I also found in there was that it's not exactly the rainy day fund for Wyoming. It is actually, let's see here, 3% of the PWMMTF would be approximately $353 million, and 3% of the permanent land fund. So those are two different types of kind of funds they have that they would allocate certain percentage, 3%, to Bitcoin. And so that total would be $535 million, or $500 million, which would basically account for 5,000, based on the price of Bitcoin at the time, I would say around 5,000 Bitcoin. So as we can see here, this shows rainy day funds, 15,000. It's actually, just a third of that based on the information that I actually found in this specific bill. Now, you could go through and look at each one of these and figure out exactly the total amount, but 5,000 coins, Bitcoin being bought by Wyoming, if this passes, it's a big deal, but it's not like the craziest massive deal in the world. So I think that we should think about that a little bit when we see these bills get proposed. It is important. It's additional buyers, and it has a high likelihood, in my point of view that these will get passed. But again, Wyoming is one of the states here, right? And it's only going to be able to buy at this point around 5,000 Bitcoin. So it's not going to move the needle entirely, but I think it will be more of a signal to the rest of the states and to countries around the world, right? There's countries around the world, and if they allocated 3% of a certain types of funds that they hold, it might also only equate to 5,000 Bitcoin. So this is significant in the way of where some of these states are the size of countries and they're allocating this type of percentage. And again, this percentage could go up. The assets that they're holding in these funds could increase, which allows that percentage to stay the same, but the actual amount of Bitcoin to grow. And, you know, it could just be a sort of a net holder, and they might have to do some rebalancing and selling every once in a while, but they would end up holding a certain amount of Bitcoin. And of course, you know, we look here at the rainy day fund of Wyoming, only accounts for 15,000 Bitcoin. But if we look at Texas, we see 224,000 Bitcoin. So that's kind of the difference in the size of the states. You know, again, California, 209,000. If we look at New York, 73,000. Florida, 41. So these states are different based on the amount of sort of reserves that they hold. And then, of course, it depends on what type of bill gets passed in these states. I also have some information here. The source is from the National Association of State Budget Offices. And this is the rainy day funds of each individual state and the year corresponding, and these are in millions. So for example, in Delaware, we have $329 million in the year 2024 for their rainy day fund. You can see some places actually have a zero amount, and that actually might include the fact that they're in debt to a certain place. So that's New Jersey. New Jersey looks like they are not doing so hot with their rainy day fund, but you can see there's quite a lot of millions and even billions of dollars that these different states hold in their rainy day funds. I think the big impact here by states adopting this, again, these are all just proposed bills. That can be sort of a buy the rumor, sell the news type thing if you're looking at it in that way. But in my opinion, I think what really moves the needle is if any one of these passes, then it lends sort of credibility to this strategy, and it will increase the likelihood that any other one of these states that proposes this will have something like this pass, especially over time as they see success, because you know, we know what Bitcoin does. It does amazing numbers in accretion of pricing power. And we understand that this will be a signal to the rest of the world when this happens. So right now, this can kind of feel like, you know, every week or every little while, every once in a while, there's a new state that introduces a bill, and we can kind of feel like, oh, we've heard this before. It's a bit of a nothing burger. I think that is sort of true, but it won't be true if any one of these actually gets passed. And I think the likelihood of that happening is pretty high, that one of these will pass. And it won't be that long. Like, it'll be in the year 2025, in my opinion, that these things start to go through. And this website here does a really good job of tracking that. So any sort of updates, right, that happen, and then you can actually look. Again, here we'll look at this website here. We can actually see the status of it. It's been introduced to the House, and this is, you know, up to, you know, we had an update yesterday that this was introduced. A certain portion of it was introduced. We can see any sort of amendments. We can see votes once it actually goes into the House for votes. And we can kind of keep up to date with this information. This is important. I don't think it's the be all end all. I don't think even the, another thing this website keeps track of is the federal status of the Cynthia Lummis bill. I don't think this is even the be all end all of Bitcoin adoption, right? I think that if any of these things happen, it's going to drive the price up. If these things don't happen, it just means longer period of time for us to stack cheaper sats. I think the game theory of Bitcoin playing out is inevitable. I think that if any of these states do not pass these bills, that it's their loss and we can move on and just continue doing what we're doing. Bitcoin will continue to win whether people adopt it or not. And eventually these states, these politicians, these people, these organizations will realize they need Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does not need them. Bitcoin has done very well without them, and it will continue to do so regardless of any outcomes here. But I do think, of course, that it increases buying pressure, it increases holders, and it will just be an accelerant to the price of Bitcoin if any of these things happen. If you feel like I've missed something, if you feel like I should go deeper into any of this, comment in the comment section and I will be sure to answer you there or in a future video. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.